sacrifice. I'm trying to work in history. For example, we see the first ever game with the use of the classical bishop sacrifice. In your chess base, you will find a lot of people called unknown. You ever thought about this? Famous games, we see only the one player, usually a very well-known player, but we don't know who is the other. And we have a lot of games like this. Why? You ever thought about it?
It's maybe constructed game.
No, it is an actual game.
It was never written the name of the other guy.
Correct, but why?
Information only from Greco and his...
No. Greco was a very smart guy. You see, in that times, between 16 and 1900, if you write the opponent name, it was a very good excuse to call you in fighting. It was unwritten rule, ethical rule. Nobody would accept that he would be the loser. So Greco, he knew very well that he would be dead if he write his opponent's name. Or he had to prove better in guns than him. And this is quite true story. It was a must. You shouldn't write the opponent name that he lost. Maybe the guy was a count, he was a king. You know, it was very bad to show that he lost in chess. You understand? We don't have losses by Napoleon. Do we have? No. Only some ladies. We have games by ladies he lost. Because to lose against a lady, okay. They didn't take it so seriously. So some games survived. But we don't have any game of Napoleon that he lost to one of his colonels. Which he lost for sure. Because it was the same.
He killed them after.
It is a probability. You know, most of the... Napoleon was a very bad chess player, really. But the colonel knew that they had to lose. Otherwise he would have become very angry. So they were taking the responsibility to lose the game, that's all. I mean, to lose badly. But this is why we have a lot of unknown people in that era, because it was very, very dangerous to write the loser's name. So we see this kind of stuff, a very game, we call it bad nowadays, with our standards. And now Greco, my famous predecessor, let's say, which actually we don't know his real name. It's obvious that his name was not Greco, because Greco in Italian means Greek, so it was the Greek. But who was his name, nobody knows. We know that Gioacchino was his name, but his surname, we never know. They call him the Gioacchino the Greek, simply. Surnames were not paying too much attention in that era. So we have, the guy was a genius probably at that time, because he constructed the very first game of the classical sacrifice, and was able at least to make. So we know the first one. Okay, but then we have to study why this happens. There must be something behind it. It's not coming from the air. So we have to write down the elements for a successful outcome. For example, the possibility of making the sacrifice, the presence of pieces to participate, the absence of the f6 knight. There are many things we have to explain in the mind, because a combination has some certain assets which must exist before it is executed. So we must train the trainee in order to recognize this kind of stuff. How this combination works, why it works. This is the most important. If he understood that, then when he will have the opportunity, it will come to his mind. We cannot tell them all this calculate. And now we go to the games. All of these games, what you can see here, they're analyzed games. We see, for example, Lukaevsky Tal, a very famous example. Okay, this is the whole analysis of this situation. And for example, here we have another dispute. This is out of our thing. But in 1920s about, there was a dispute where to place the rooks. Even you ask grandmasters today, how should I place my rook? Should I place it on E1 and D1? Should I place it on C1 and D1? Should I place it on B1 and C1? We have three different opportunities. What is the best? Main question. And why it is the best? Because to say to the trainee that you must play this, okay, it's good, he will know in this position. But if he doesn't understand why, probably he will not repeat it in certain situation. Well, actually, even Alechin in 1920s, he played rook c1, rook d1, which is a mistake. Actually, you have to see this position more deeply. For example, what both sides are aiming for. You have to know this in order to teach it. You have to know that black aiming for an endgame, where he has an extra 2-1 majority on the queen side, so he might have better chances in the ending to create an outside pass pawn. But in order to work with this outside pass pawn, what pieces he must keep on the board, what pieces he must exchange. You see here, if you know a lot of things, you might take the point, or you lose the point, depends. Here, for example, white wants to attack the center and create an attack on the king side. Why he wants to make an attack on the king side? Because all pieces, black pieces, are not protecting the king. So can you make an attack without the rooks? No. If you place your rook on c1, what is the c file? It's a path to exchange pieces, to exchange rook. This one you cannot tell it by your edgings. You have to study games to see how it works this. And you can see that if you play your rook on c1, the only one it really comes out in a lot of games that this is a path to exchange the heavy pieces, and then black will be happy. So this doesn't work. On b1, c1 is the same thing. So after around 1920, 1925, they understood that the best place for the rook is on the center to avoid the exchange of the rook in order to attack on the center and the king side, in order to have at least equal chances. So there is a whole concept behind this very simple position that the trainer should be aware of it and try to explain to the trainee. Otherwise the trainee, how to know that? Maybe now you are wondering also, before you become good players and trainers, you were also in the position of the trainee. You must have been. So maybe you are asking yourselves now, why nobody told me that? It's a question you put to yourselves. Well, we cannot get life back, but at least we can do a little better things that our previous trainers worked with us. You know, and maybe it's not their fault. Maybe the era was different, maybe they didn't have enough info. But now we have no excuse, we have all the info in the world in our feet. We have to use this info. Even now you see Polukaevsky played correctly because he knew everything. Polukaevsky was a really very good researcher, excellent researcher. Actually, he was not so good as a player, but he was so good researcher and analyzer that he improved his play easily 50 to 70 points more than he was actually playing. Because he worked in a lot. You see, for example, Alechin against the Oiven World Championship match in 1935, he played rook fd1, and he got nothing. And after this, the rook goes in the center, and there is also Spassky Petrosyan was made by rook c8, a very famous game that is in all positions with an isolated with a passed pawn. For example, this position, I remember if you play knight a5, I think, if I remember well, this was the punishment. And now check, you can't take it. So after this, you simply take, e5, bishop f3, e6, 1-0. This is the theoretical line. If you show this to a trainee, he will be very happy to see the pawns going and winning everything with 2 pieces down. He wants to repeat that, but unfortunately, okay, it's only an opening trap, as far as I remember. So after e5 like this, queen f4, this is good. And this is another thing, you have the passed pawn. What piece you have to keep, what piece you have to exchange? Question to your trainee, but you must give the answer. There is a rule, says, we have a passed pawn, we should keep heavy pieces, we should exchange light pieces. Why this? Because light pieces can blockade, heavy pieces cannot blockade. Immediately you have an info. But if you try to prove to your trainee by only variation, impossible. You will be lost in the variation. You don't have to. Some moves are made like this. Here Spassky knew very well that it doesn't matter if you lose a pawn. You shouldn't exchange queen. Finished. You exchange queen when you win. Here he saw that he's losing a pawn. He didn't care. He played like this, and queens, and the guy, if I remember well, he played queen c2, and black won the pawn on a2, but he lost in the end because the 5 pawn was very strong. I think the guy played queen h5, or I don't really remember. This example is very much analyzed in a lot of sources. But the main idea is that when you have a passed pawn, you preserve the heavy pieces, especially the queen. It doesn't matter even if you lose some material. If you don't tell this to a trainee, here he will tell you, oh, I have to exchange queen because I lose a pawn. Simple and correct thought by his point of view, because nobody informed him on the opposite. It's not his mistake. And okay, bishop d3, and now you see mechanisms, how to make the attack. If you play e5, you want to play e5, but you don't do anything because doesn't really work. So you have here a mechanism where you can meet in a lot of games. The mechanism of d5, sacrificing a pawn, and after this one, e5, now white is ready to attack, where black is passive on the queen side. You see also the piece is a5, b7 is a little bit out of play. Look at the king side, how empty it is. And after this, queen f4, knight b2. Okay, then even the preparation in times like 1970s, the end of 67, it was very high. Here, Volodevsky had this position, he said, beforehand in his home. That's what he said after the game. We can believe him, it's not a problem, he was playing quickly. He knew all the details up and down. As Tal as well, but Tal was probably not a very good worker. So now he fought for this. No, very simply. And we have a very famous game which you cannot see every day. And now the most funny stuff that Volodevsky, he analyzed this position as I told you, and he found the only move that wins. He played it directly, he didn't found over the game. The third is to, if you play something like this, let's say, is to play h5 and take it, check, here, check, here, check, here, mate. So actually he created a threat by h4, which he had it from his home. Now we see, for example, the same year, knight d1 was played in a game of Olafsson-Lombard. After check, black resigned. But here Tal played a very good move, rook c4, which is the most fighting move. Because Tal was a world-class player. He would not lose like a baby. Now again h5, check. And now Volodevsky said he had this, even this position in his home analysis. And we can believe him, I mean, what's the point? Why to tell lies? But it was an interesting game. He played like this, and now he played rook d2, rook c6 is his only move. And this position he could play a little better. After this, here, white is retained a plus, but things are far from clear. But after all this heavy fighting that Tal has to make, he made a mistake with rook d8, and after check here in knight f5, he missed rook c2, and where black is lost. Because white will give a very good check on e7. You see, pawns are equal, everything is equal, but Volodevsky gained the positionally winning position. So after this, and now he won some material, and black resigned. Because 97 check is quite heavy. We see a lot of games like this, and okay, it's easy to collect. You see here I have collected maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 games from good players, but I'm sure if you walk on your chess base, you will find many more examples. It's not so difficult. Some of them analyze, some of them not very big analyze, depends, maybe you make some work. But this is how you work in this way. As the double bishop sacrifice, what I told you. Here we see another thing. We see here what is our goals, what are the requirements, to analyze how the sacrifice is failing, why it is failing. We have also to see, because usually the young people, they see the sacrifice, they just make it. They are very happy, and after it's too late. So we see why might fall. Then we go to see, you remember the first game, Lasker Bar, what we said, the second game is Nimchovi Staras. Those two games are the first two games played in history. And then we can have our own connections with the games here, as you see. Others, okay, they're spread all over the century. All of them is some heavy analysis because you don't know what you can see, or some are not. But you can see that there are the same requirements and same thing. There is a theory behind it. This is what we call the theory of middle game. And this is how we really have to teach our trainees. Of course, we speak about trainees who wants to go for a higher level. Okay, we don't speak about kids, and kids will make different stuff. But I believe that all of you will want to work also to a little higher level. I feel so. So that's why I'm telling that there are a lot of things where you can consult and work, and don't be really ashamed to take material of other people. This is nothing bad. What I'm usually doing also, I'm trying to collect what exists and put my games, if I have my opinion, whatever. It's something like creating something new. You must not wait that you will discover the world. Maybe you make some discoveries, but will be very few.